notice I said sport and not just one specific sport, but that's what keeps our spirits up, every pun intended, as far as this afternoon is concerned. But yes, when you talk about making it large over a long period of time, there is just one brand that comes to mind, a strong association, a large association, and something that over time has talked about dealing with your own destiny. And it's something that you don't need to be a marketing guru or an ad man to start thinking, okay, why is a particular brand talking about a particular line or a particular way of thinking? Well, there's no rocket science to knowing that it's a very simple philosophy, and I'm so glad that we're here for a wonderful afternoon with a very significant event that we will talk about as far as the course of the afternoon goes. First, I'd like to invite the head of marketing for Pernod Ricard India, Mohinder, on stage, please. Kartik.
Australia, a lot of pride to make up. So, honestly speaking, you would probably be you'd be doing a fantastic job if you were able to pick a winner on every day of that tournament.
It is all yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, to Kartik and Gautam, thank you very much for welcoming me here today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, representing the International Cricket Council to celebrate the start of a new 5-year partnership with Royal Stag. Royal Stag, as has been mentioned, are already part of the cricket world, and so it's great now to welcome them officially to the ICC family, and we're very much looking forward to working with them over the next 5 years, and I think the sport and the fans in particular are in for a real treat. Our partnership with Royal Stag is a natural fit. We like to think of ourselves as one of the world's biggest sports, and we'll be working alongside one of the world's most valued brands. We're both committed to celebrating our sport and, of course, making sure that our fans always have an experience never to be forgotten. Cricket is a wonderful platform for all our partners. We have more than 1 billion adult fans around the world who are they don't just love the game, they passionately love the game. And we also have some outstanding global events that capture the imagination of the public. And proud to say that it's not only T20 cricket, which we use as our globalizing tool, but we also have the 50-over version of the game and recently introduced a Test World Championship as well. So we provide something for everyone at all times. And I think although we will look forward with great excitement for the World Cup next year, I certainly believe that this partnership will fit well with what you're trying to achieve over the next 5 years. As I said, the first of those events for this partnership with Royal Stag is next summer's ICC Men's Cricket World Cup in England. I think it will be one of the world's greatest celebrations of cricket, with the 10 best sides there going head-to-head for the right to call themselves one-day cricket world champions. The format next summer means that everyone gets to play everybody, and the standard of cricket, I think, will be probably the highest it's been at a global event for a number of years. Certainly with no outcomes guaranteed. And another thing that's particularly exciting about the World Cup is that in the UK, with its cultural mix, I think every team can enjoy home support. When we look at the ticket sales for the event next year, I think it's something like 44 out of the 48 games are already sold out. So demand for tickets is unprecedented, and I'm sure that we'll be able to expect noisy crowds that will add to the atmosphere in the UK next year. But it's not just the fans in the stadia that we're expecting to be part of the event. We know hundreds of millions of people around the world will watch and enjoy the world's best cricketers doing battle. We'll be working with the team at Royal Stag to bring our partnership to life in a way that is meaningful for cricket and fans around the world. So we have a long-term vision of our sport, cricket, being a sport enjoyed by the world, and with the focus on the word enjoyment. And again, another reason why I think this partnership will work really well, and I'm sure that Royal Stag will help us achieve that that vision. Thank you once again to everyone at Royal Stag for being so committed to the partnership and investing in the future of our game. We are very much looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Just pass that back to you. You know, just before we have a photograph with the three of you, I think it seems almost apt that I started this afternoon by talking about making it large not just being a tagline, but almost a way of life as far as they're concerned. And from what we see, even though it might not be written in words, any event that comes from the ICC is larger than life. So in that sense, it makes it for an apt partnership?
I think so. I mean, we talk about, I suppose our larger is making the game bigger, growing the game. And whilst T20 helps us attract new audiences and new fans to the game, there's no doubt that we've got over 1 billion adult fans, and 680 million of them like all three forms of the game. And I know that Royal Stag as well, they don't want to just support one aspect, they want to support cricket. And cricket means being able to play all three formats. If you want to call yourself a good player, you need to be able to succeed at test level, 50 over cricket and T20 cricket.
Yes, and I think that's the message that they are sending out as well, as players who are playing a long innings. But I think this is the time when we'd like all these three gentlemen, and we request all of the photographers.
पीछे हो जाएगा आपका फ्लैश आ जाएगा बीच
Lost his nerve in the end in Michael Holland, tried to sweep that straight ball with the leg. It's another wicket for Amarnath, now delighted in looks. In the air, Richardson takes it! India win! Unbelievable scenes here at the Bombay. Finishes off in style. A magnificent strike into the crowd. India lift the World Cup. After 28 years, the parties start in the dressing room. And it's an Indian captain who's been absolutely magnificent in the night of the final.
Well, he's demolished it. He really has. 91 from 79 deliveries. MS Dhoni, 8 fours, 2 sixes. Look at the scenes here. Great joy to the one caring. Great joy, you would say, all over India.
We can watch that over and over again. Come on, I know you were with the ICC. From 1983, the man of the match in the semi-final and the final. Please welcome Mohinder Amarnath. And joining him in this journey, we're talking about 2007, the World T20. Yes, that final catch might have been taken. Or in 2011, everyone remembers, well, they remember Ravi Shastri's commentary more than Dhoni's shot. But what about the man who put the runs on the board on both occasions and often tends to be forgotten? Yes, please welcome Gautam Gambhir. Welcome, gentlemen. Gautam, I'm going to come to you first. You know, I'm sure you were listening to us backstage talking about this brand new partnership and making it large, but you'd have to agree, even though you were not quite present in that sense, 1983, you were far too young to remember it, but you'd agree that's the time India started making it large in the world of cricket and then passed the baton to the likes of yourself?
Absolutely. I think that was a massive inspiration for the entire country and then a lot of young cricketers as well. And obviously I was just 2-year-old, but I still remember the visuals seen when we won at Lord's, and I've seen a little bit of the visuals in the semi-finals against England as well. And Jimmy played such an important role in both the games. I think he was the man of the match in both the games, and I thought that was a huge inspiration. I think that is probably took Indian cricket to a completely different level, started people taking us very seriously as well after that, and I thought that a lot of young cricketers started picking up the sport as well.
Yes, 1-2-year-old you inspired, and another generation. Did you almost realize, because that time, as we said, India hadn't quite made it as large as you'd expect, and when you were going to that semi-final against England, I mean, they're the hosts, they were one of the favourites, even though the West Indies had won in 75 and 79, there was no expectation. Was that one of the things that you sort of said we'll slip under the radar?
Yes, I think when we started the World Cup, people thought that we would be there just for formalities. And a lot of players, I think, in the Indian team also were there for holidays to start with. But once we started doing well, I think we got the confidence, and we had the players, and we all clicked at the right time. And semi-finals, when you talk about it, definitely English press didn't give a chance to Indian team. They thought we were far below than the English team with their experience and all that. So I think that helped us in a way, because when you're underdogs, then there's no pressure.
All right, so while we keep chatting, I think you saw brief visuals. Why don't we keep those running in the background? You talked about that semi-final. Again, it was not a question anymore of saying, listen, we've reached the semi-final, so we're assured of a bronze medal kind of attitude that has long gone out of the Indian ethos in every sense of the word. So memories of that, I know if little moments you can remember. I think to me this wicket of David Gower, who's somebody who's capable of making it large, didn't allow him to.
And that's out. Yes, good behind Gower. That little slip shot again outside the off stump. Thickly changed, and this time Kamani moving away to his left. Quite well, low down. And Gower goes 107 for 3. David Gower caught Kamani, bowled Amarnath for 17.
Up comes the leg stop. There's the leg cutter, and Captain Neville looking comfortable. Crowd are going absolutely mad. The Indian camp on the far side.
Now tell us, I know you watched this a billion times. That kind of visual is meant to happen for someone coming in at 140 kilometers an hour. You were generally known to be military medium. That's the first time we heard that phrase. Still don't know what it quite means, but it was associated with you. And yet you were very significant in taking those wickets at regular intervals. Don't be modest about it. It wasn't just the red hanky.
No, I started my career as a bowler, not as a batsman. And I used to bowl a lot in first-class cricket. And the only difference here, I think the other pace bowlers who were in the Indian team, they had longer run-ups. I don't think there's much of a difference in the pace. And of course, as far as getting dismissed is concerned, I always knew that I would get him, because the way he would bat, I would read him well. And I always knew that anything coming into him at the right place and right area, I would get him.
And of course, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of that stance, but it was obviously effective enough for you. But jumping down and hitting those maximums, again, it was something that was not necessarily part of the DNA in those days. I mean, Kapil Dev, yes, that was different. You'd expect someone like Kapil Dev to come out and do it. But when we were watching the game live and we suddenly see you jumping down and sending it to not exactly the shortest part of the ground, was that a confidence thing?
No, Kapil was a fantastic player, like he was a big hitter, and on his day he would destroy any bowling. But I think this is the best way to play spin, and against, I think you have to read the situation at the time and the total you're chasing. So I was not doing anything different over here, I was just playing a normal game.
Playing a normal game. He's being a little modest, isn't he, Dave, as he always is? When you what was your first reaction when you were looking back at the history of the World Cups? And at that time we were waiting for South Africa's readmission, which came a few years after that. But when you look back at the history of victories, 75, 79 was expected. This was the first time a bolt from a blue came.
And probably the awakening of a giant.
looking back now, South Africa was a bad place to live in those days in the sense that apart from apartheid, we didn't actually have television. So the names that we would read about in the Cricketer magazine or whatever, we couldn't really put a face to, and it's only in later years that we got to know these great cricketers from places other than England and Australia and of course our home country, South Africa. But I think that was probably that year's signal that, hold on, cricket can be played to a really high standard in countries other than just the big three at the time, England, Australia and the West Indies. And a breakthrough for India was great for world cricket.
But you have to say, just picking up from what Dave said, the win in '83 and then of course 4 years later hosting the event, that really signaled a different era for Indian cricket because, as he said, awakening of a giant. Afterwards?
Yes, absolutely. I think from there on, what I just mentioned, I think it inspired a lot of new generation, and I'm sure that happened after 2007 as well, when we won the inaugural 2007 World Cup, the T20 World Cup. Obviously, people started taking T20 cricket very seriously as well. Plus, I think whenever you end up winning big tournaments, it inspires a lot of new generations to take up sport and play it in the right way as well. And I thought that these three big tournaments, especially 1983, 2007 and 2011, must have inspired a lot of new generations to pick up this sport and take Indian cricket forward as well, which is more important. The more young kids who take up sport, the better the sport will become in future.
Kartik, from a brand's perspective, when you look at this, you talk about going forward in the generations, and you know when success breeds success. That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of reason why you want to continue to associate with that winning feeling and hence make it large.
Oh, absolutely. I think these two distinguished gentlemen have actually said it. I think not only the generation you inspired the nation with the victories that happened over the years. I was one of them. I couldn't make it to the levels that these gentlemen obviously did, but the love affair with the game actually started then. And I think I say this not only as a marketer or as a lover of cricket, I think that's true for India as a whole. And when we talk about Royal Stag and our desire to make it larger is to just associate ourselves deeper, not only the sport, but also all the sentiments that go behind the sport. And again, like Gautam mentioned, that it's about people believe that they could actually go out there and achieve it. And that's really the philosophy of Royal Stag is nothing should hold you back, dream, achieve, make it large.
Where were you in '83?
I was 7, so I think Gautam was actually talking about people like being 7
years. If you're giving your ages away, that's fine.
No, but I must say this though, it was so overwhelming to see India win and the emotions that had overcome me. I can only imagine what these two gentlemen would have felt when they were actually winning it for the country. And I've always been in amazement. It's amazing. I wish I could have that experience, but.
Well, actually, we should fast forward to that final day, and I have to always throw in the fact that I have a personal association with it ever since I was growing up, because it happened on my birthday. But unlike you two gentlemen, I won't mention which birthday. I'll keep my to myself. But again, it was, the reason I bring it up was we were in the middle of a birthday party and it started off terribly. Because we thought, what a great way to celebrate a birthday, because you've got people over watching this game live on TV, and then your Indian team goes and makes a score that's about, 150 below par? And you're like, never mind, against the world champions 2 times over. And I remember once asking, we were doing a reliving of that with the next generation literally, and I asked Madan Lal's son Kunal, I said, how many times have you watched that particular match over and over? He said, I never watch it again, because I think if I do watch it, Kapil Paji is going to drop that catch if I watch it again, the significant catch. But I think let's just go back to those moments, because as Kartik did confirm, man of the match in the semi-final, he was hungry for more. And here you were up against the world champions on 25th June 1983, 75, 79, 83 was supposed to be a formality. I mean, Lloyd, Richards, Holding, Garner, I mean, the list just goes on. I haven't even mentioned the top of Greenwich and Haynes.
Malcolm Marshall, the bowler.
But it all started with India's batting.
Ball played. Fine hook shot by Mohinder Amarnath.
Well, what a shot. That's the 3rd time he's
Look at that smile, you enjoyed that.
impact attack away to the square leg boundary. This was a quick ball.
You'd have to
Just-
say
just
Malcolm
almost
Marshall
absolutely
at his
stunning.
best
And
was
magnificently
reasonably
hooked.
quick. And it was not just in that World Cup, we saw when the West Indies came to India, you were using that hook shot to great effect. Fearless?
I think when you talk about the West Indian fast bowler, probably he was the quickest among the four. And he was young, he was fit, and his run-up was something like as if the bullet would come out of the gun, kind of a thing. He would take a stance and then he's there. And he was very quick. But I think when you play against those kind of bowlers, attack is the best defense.
And then came, of course, the wickets towards the end. Fair call to say that you were significantly below par, because that particular World Cup would have made Royal Stag very proud. Talk about making it large. 60 overs a side, doesn't get bigger as a format in limited overs cricket. But what was said in that change room in between? Was there still belief? In hindsight, yes, we feel there was, but...
Nothing was said, nothing was discussed. So we got the runs and the captain said, okay, let's go and fight it out, and that's it. And we were left to the individuals. And I think when you play this game at this level, I don't think you have to tell each and every guy what he's supposed to do. Everybody knows his job, he knows what he's supposed to do. And that's how I think we played this game in those days. I'm sure it must be happening same at when Gautam was playing or Dave was playing. I'm sure like you don't have to tell all 11 players what you're supposed to do.
When this match started getting to its conclusion, and when that moment finally happened, I mean, now it's a different generation. This generation of not just players, but the media, they almost expect India won this, they're going to win the next one, and again. That time, winning was, at least at that level, was relatively new in a scenario, in a World Cup scenario. How long did it take to actually sink in the magnitude of what you had achieved?
I think when we won, because we didn't realize what we have achieved and what we had created actually. And so we were quite thrilled that we beat in West Indies, not that we had not won against them earlier in one-day cricket. But no, like we were playing against the best team, and I think at that time we thought we were as good as the West Indian because we were in the finals. We never underestimated ourselves. And it was great. I think we only realized when we came back home that what we had achieved for cricket and for India and for people, and the love for cricket as well.
I think what only disappointed a generation at that time, looking back now, was that all of you kept your shirts on the balcony after the victory. That was just, it was not on. Somebody had to do something.
Yeah, I think we were all gentlemen.
I'll convey that to the gentleman in concern. He was a classmate of mine, I'm not sure he'd appreciate that, but I know where your sentiment's coming from.
It's my opinion.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it will be taken in that right spirit. Gautam, going forward, as I briefly mentioned, 2007, India were reluctant to almost appreciate what this new format was. South Africa were playing host, some of the other countries like the West Indies, obviously they thought, oh, carnival time, it's our kind of game. But for India, few key players were left out of the side, and so new captain, not quite sure what to expect. When you went to South Africa in 2007, what was your personal expectation of this strange new format?
Look, another opportunity for me to do something special for the country. And at that stage, obviously I was in and out of the squad as well. So I always thought that irrespective of what the format is, I've got another platform to do something special. And the best thing that happened when we went there was that we went with no expectations. People didn't expect us to do anything because obviously it was a young side playing for the first time, that kind of a format as well. Plus I think with youth comes a lot of fearlessness as well. So we went there without any fear, and I thought that's the only reason why we could do well. If you see after that, I think once the expectations started creeping in after 2007, the next G20 World Cup we played, we didn't qualify for the knockouts. Then the next World Cup after that, when we played in West Indies, we didn't qualify again. So when you go into that tournament without any expectation, it's always better. Plus there was a lot of fearlessness as well. But then when people started expecting, when you started going the next time as the world champion, there was a lot of pressure on you. And then obviously the other countries were getting better as well. We stayed there where we were. We just didn't improve. I think when you go to defend as the world champions, you got to improve, keep improving every time. And I thought that probably in that format, we thought that we started taking things a little bit lightly as well. A lot of focus was on test cricket and 50-over cricket as well. So I thought in 2007 what worked for us was that we didn't take that tournament I'm not going to say too seriously, but there was not any expectation on us from anywhere, from any point of view as well.
Was that bowl out against Pakistan almost symbolic of the fact that, let's find a different way? It's an unorthodox format, so let's use unorthodox means to hit the stumps, get the batsman to bowl.
Look, I don't believe in that even that thing, and I never believed in that bowl out thing as well. I think super over is a much better format than what bowl out was. At least it gives equal opportunity to both the sides. And it's going to be very unfair that if you decide a game on a bowl out. I never agreed on during that time as well. I thought there had to be something different. I think that is something which is very unfair. I think super over is probably the right way to go about things as well. Obviously, credit to ICC, credit to people who've changed that format, changed that law, because I think this is what gives both equal opportunity to both the teams as well to decide the important game.
Going into the final doesn't get a bigger contest. You talked about a rugby contest between France and South Africa, and I can see us keep a little bit of a gap in there. That's fine. Again, when you talk about our sport, it's just a bit of a cliche, but in India-Pakistan final was the perfect script. I mean, it's not just for the ICC or for marketeers or for brands. For every fan, for every media person, it's the perfect script. And that was a great finish to have India playing Pakistan in the final. But it meant that it was no more the fun and games, no more one guy trying to hit 6 sixes just to prove a point to somebody else, but there was going to be a serious contest out there.
Look, in both the tournaments when we won, I said one thing, that when you're able to beat a team like Australia in the quarterfinals, we had beaten Australia in the semi-finals in T20 World Cup, and we got that belief that we can defeat anyone after that. We defeated Australia in the quarterfinals in 2011, and we ended up winning that tournament. So when you end up beating a side like Australia, which is probably the toughest side to beat in any competition and in any format, you just end up getting that belief. So the moment we had beaten Australia, we knew that irrespective of who the opposition is, who the opponent is, we had that belief that we're going to beat anyone, especially after that game. Yes, Pakistan, obviously media creates a lot of hype about Pakistan, but if you ask a professional cricketer, it doesn't change one bit. Because ultimately it's the final, it's the World Cup final. It really doesn't matter who you're playing. You want to go out there and win the World Cup for your country. So irrespective of what the what the opposition is, obviously there's a lot of hype that will always be created when you play Pakistan. But as a professional cricketer, you don't think about Pakistan. You think about the opposition. Ultimately, the contest is not between India and Pakistan. It's a contest between a bat and a ball. So as a professional cricketer, you're only thinking about the next ball, try to beat that next ball and try to do the best on that particular delivery as well and try to win that delivery. So I thought that it was a lot media created, but then from my point of view, I would approach that game exactly the same way as I had approached the entire tournament.
We've got some visuals from that as well, because we don't want to keep remembering Srishant and his catch. We love him to bits, but there was so much more to that particular game than the final moment.
And clear shots like this.
And when the runs had to be put on the board,
It's over the line for
these were crucial runs because, again, it was so early in the format that you didn't even know what a good score was at the end of 20 overs. Which is why you had to have a different kind of mindset when you went out to bat early on in that format.
Well, I thought putting runs on the board in that tournament was very important, especially against a team like Pakistan. I don't remember who won the toss in that final. If India would have won, I thought it would have been a good decision because you want Pakistan to chase every time. They've never been great chasers. And putting runs on the board, especially in those big kind of tournaments, is always runs on the board. If Pakistan would have put 150, we would have been under a lot of pressure as well. So we knew that anything on the board will be an advantage for us. And then Pakistan had the batting, but we knew that runs on the boards are runs on the board. So someone had to bat deep, and I thought that it was my turn because I started the innings and it was my turn to bat in the 15th or the 16th over so that I can lay the platform. And 155 was not a bad total on that. I know the wicket was flat, but on that given day.
I'm going to bring Mohinder Amarnath in here. Again, this was like a new beginning for India. Like you awakened the giants in '83, this was the awakening of a different kind of giant. It was called T20 cricket.
Yes, I remember this game. I was in Singapore covering for Stars and ESPN. And we were doing Hindi commentary over there. And Waqar Yunis was also there. And when it came to the last stage of the game, when the last wicket fell, and the moment he played the shot, and the first reaction from Waqar, 4. And when ball was still up in the air, oh no, he said. No, it's not 4. Some problem here. Oh no, we have lost. You know? And I think the excitement was there. It was very new for everybody at that time, 2007. But I think it was a great moment for Indian cricket, as Gautam just mentioned. Because winning a World Cup, and even rightly said, doesn't matter who is in the final, you're playing the final. But one thing I can tell you with my own experience, that when you play against Pakistan in a game like this in the final, I think your mindset is a little bit different if you're a North Indian. You think differently. Definitely think differently.
Look, you got him to smile. That's rare.
And being a Punjabi, you don't want to lose. Definitely. And you know, like, you don't think about people, those who are watching, and you know, that whole country is there. But you're not thinking about that. And very rightly said, it's a game between bat and ball. You want to do well, and you want to concentrate even harder, and you want to beat the opponent.
I've heard so many different versions of looking back at these various World Cups. This one I had never heard before. A different mindset if you're North Indian. Yep, I live in Delhi, I can already feel it coming through. But, and as I said, getting him to smile as a reaction to that said it all. I know you keep playing it down, saying it was just another game, but occasionally you can... something does come out. Don't give me that.
I can't get banned anymore, so I can say whatever I want to. Look, obviously, as a North Indian, obviously it is, you are a bit more aggressive as compared to other people as well, plus the language is pretty much the same as well. So when the language is the same, obviously you do understand the sledges as well, you do understand the aggression as well, and you end up giving him the same language as well. And plus, I think it's just the way North Indians are, what like Jimmy Pa said, that it's just the mindset, it's just the way you brought up. I think you brought up, North Indians are, I'm not going to say that other people are not aggressive, but literally you have to fight every inch to be where you are, especially when you're playing for teams like Delhi or in North, I think for Punjab as well. So I think the mindset remains being aggressive, and that is what is taught to us when we are growing up, to play aggressively, be aggressive, have a strong body language. And I think that is something which obviously you do carry on the field for the rest of your life. Plus when you're playing against Pakistan, yes, I've always maintained that is how I prepared myself when I was playing against Pakistan, didn't look at the opposition. But yes, I've had my own issues, obviously, sledges with Pakistan, whether it was Afridi, with Kamran Akmal as well. So no regrets, I think I've enjoyed every bit of it, and because it's just the passion which you carry on the cricket field.
Dave, just before we get to our final trip, which of course is 2011, it was almost new for the ICC at the time, having this new format and then getting all the teams and calling it a World Cup. No one quite knew what to even call it at the time. But did you even foresee that it could become that big at the time?
I think there was a realization that if cricket is going to be sustainable and not end up like croquet, or it needed to adopt a shorter format. The bottom line is that youngsters taking up the game these days, there's lots of other potential avenues to enjoy, whether it's water polo or other sports that are not going to take up your whole weekend. So I think finding a shorter format was essential for the long-term success and sustainability of the game. And we always knew that if ICC didn't introduce a global competition, someone else was going to do it. And I think it's proven that it was a wise move. Number one, it has grown the sport, it has helped us grow the sport. I think there is going to be a changing focus in future years. People talk about not wanting to lose the skills needed for Test cricket. But actually what we're seeing is that to be a really good T20 player, you also need those skills that are very much the basics of Test cricket. And unless you've got them, then you're not going to be of much value. Yes, you might come off once every 5 innings or once every 6 innings. But if you want to be a proper player, whether it's any format, T20, 50 overs or Test cricket, you need to have those basic skills. And I think there's going to be a realization that the coaching staff, the high performance staff need to focus on making sure that those basic skills are learned, no matter what format you want to play, in the end.
Guillaume, Dave just took a pot shot at a French sport. I hope you're okay with that. Croquet can be great fun when it comes to it, but it's fun. It is. I know I see an empty chair here, so I think I'm going to just sit down, because just the last bit that we have before we're going to throw it open to all of you for questions. 2011 is something again fresher in memory, but no less significant or more significant necessarily than the other two events. And again, this innings in the final, Gauti, not necessarily India-Pakistan, you had got over that hurdle in the semi-final, but this one again, when you talk about chasing runs in a final, you talked about putting runs on the board in the final, this was the added pressure of chasing. a fairly decent total in a final, 275.
Look, this is what you train every day for. I think all those big moments, and when I was growing up, I think 50 over World Cup was probably the only World Cup I would ever thought of, and I think that is something which I considered as one of the biggest moments in my career, because 50 overs World Cup was always my dream to play, and this was my first World Cup of any sort. So I thought that it was a great opportunity for me, and I didn't even realize, because by one good thing that happened and one bad thing that happened simultaneously was that Sehwag got out early. But the good thing from my point of view that happened was that I didn't have to wait for my turn, and sometimes when you're waiting for your turn, a lot of things can start playing in your mind, and sometimes the occasion gets better of you as well. So by the time I realized anything, I was in the middle watching Lassit Malinga. So everything about that occasion just went out of the window completely. So the next thing was facing the next ball and trying to score runs. And I knew that obviously that the wicket was good, but then the important thing was to bat deep again. So 0 for 1, then 20 odd for 2. I thought I had that belief that if I bat till the end, we'll end up chasing this target, and that is why you play this sport, and that is why you go playing for your country as well. If you don't have the belief to play for your country, there's no point going out there and just filling the numbers. So irrespective of what the situation is, I think if you've been picked to do the job, if you've been picked to play the World Cup for your country, you are expected to win the World Cup for your team. So I think very fortunate that I had this opportunity of playing 2 World Cup finals and then doing something special in both the World Cup finals, which not a lot of people have done. So when I went into that game, I thought that God has given me 2 opportunities to do something special. I've done it once. There's another opportunity at home. Whether it's going to happen ever again in life, I don't know whether I'm going to be part of any other World Cup team or not. I think let me just, all those years of hard work, I can do something special here.
That first breakthrough, what a big one that was.
Yes, in very simple terms, what Gautam Gambhir was describing there was how not once but twice on the world stage he made it large. And that's what was needed on that day in April 2011.
Oh, rushing in was the fielder at square leg. That's a boundary to go. The run single or use the pace of the bowler. He's gone for it. He's going to pick up a boundary.
Chipped. Intelligent play. Little skip down the pitch. Chase it for 4.
Mohali. That's a good shot over extra cover.
That's because he likes to go inside out.
That's a good strike. Picked his spot nicely. No
We
one
get
deep on the
goosebumps,
offside.
Scotty, watching that. Do you still, every time you see that?
Look, I don't look back a lot as well. I think it is about looking at future as well. But yes, obviously it does sometimes give you that excitement that you've done something special for your country.
Did you have the highest laundry bill in the Indian team after that final? Because your shirt was filthy after that dive that you put in.
I haven't got it washed. I think it's still exactly the way it was in 2011, and I think I'm going to frame it somewhere in my big cabinet.
That's special. That's special. I didn't know that little bit of trivia, but I think yes. Wonderful. Come on, let's show some energy for these wonderful gentlemen here. India making it large, 83, 2007, 2011. The journey has just begun because we've got this wonderful association here that is not just celebrating these 2 gentlemen, a nation, but is taking the celebration forward for, as for now, the next 5 years. I'm going to ask Karthik to briefly make your brand presentation before we throw it open. But I'd like a final word from Guillaume. You've been listening to these gentlemen reliving their stories of making it large. At times like this, do you keep telling yourself, yes, we're in the right place?
No, we are in the right place. We speak about emotion. When I was listening to you, to both of you, give me the emotion because you're speaking about enjoying. So it starts with you, finally, which I used to say. Because if you want to spread this emotion, it's because we have wonderful players on the game, on the green, and we really want to make it large. So that's something which, for us, give a lot of energy to all of us, but especially with a brand like Wildstyle.
Merci, Guillaume. Karthik?
Right, so I think for the next part of this, what we wanted to share is that, so this is not only limited to our next 5 years. I think our intent is to forge the love for the game and be the brand behind the game. And what we want to do is we want to create so much fervor around this, the fabulous sporting calendar that Dave spoke about. And we also want to take it a step further and give an opportunity for the Indian consumer to actually go there and watch the games live and be a part of this entire festival of cricket, if I may extend to that. And again, not being limited to a particular part of the World Cup, we've actually gone ahead and we have signed on board as brand ambassadors Angelo Matthews, Mitchell Stark, Faf du Plessis, our very own KL Rahul, Kane Williamson, Ben Stokes and Andre Russell. So we got representations of all the big cricketing teams. And exactly like Dave said, the calendar for the next 5 years is not limited to one particular format. So if you actually see our choice of cricketers are those who made it large themselves, but can represent their respective countries in every format. And that's where the game actually becomes larger and bigger. So we have a full campaign ready and we want to give a very sneak preview to you guys of what it's going to be looking like, and we're going to go live very soon with this entire campaign. Could we have the video please?
Give it the best of you. You wanna make it large, it starts with you. You gotta make it. You gotta make it large. When you're sweating hard on the street, blazing your soul, everybody take all the heat. Remember, the word you never heard is defeat. What do you really want more than everything? To win, you go from the very beginning. What you dream around comes around. When you lose yourself is when you fail. Stand out, never be a part of the queue. You wanna make it large, it starts with you.
Seagram's Royal Stag Mega Music. It's your life. Make it large.
Give it the best of you. You wanna make it large, it starts with you. You gotta make it. You gotta make it large. When you're sweating hard on the street, blazing your soul, everybody take all the heat. Remember, the word you never heard is defeat. What do you really want more than everything? To win, you go from the very beginning. What you dream around comes around. When you lose yourself is when you fail. Stand out, never be a part of the queue. You wanna make it large, it starts with you.
Seagram's Royal Stag Mega Music. It's your life. Make it large.
Thank you, Karthik. And I think before we throw it open to all of you, I'd just like all you gentlemen, now that you've turned from 3 to 5, to just come forward for all our cameramen and photographers to get a nice family picture in there. With the chairs not there. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's over to you. Please do identify yourselves and who you're addressing the question to.
Yeah, hi everyone, and well, I'm Rohit, and this is a question to Gauti. Gauti, first of all, I mean, when we were seeing the highlights of the 2011 World Cup, I mean, really, want to congratulate you for that innings. It was very special. The question is, do you think about the potential 100 you missed out in the World Cup final? Because you were playing well, but you got out on 97. Do you ever think about that?
Thank you very much. Look, there were days obviously you do, but then when you're playing on those big occasions, you don't think about your own individual scores as well. And I've always maintained one thing: 97 is always better than a 0. All a batsman takes on in the middle is a 0. So anything above 0 is always a bonus. And if someone would have told me one night before that you'll be part of the World Cup winning team and you score a 97, you won't score 100, you'll score a 97, I would have taken it hands down. Because in those big occasions, it's not about what you do. It's about whether you're part of the World Cup winning team or you're not part of the World Cup winning team. I'm sitting here on this stage because I'm part of the World Cup winning team. Had we not won the 2011 World Cup, probably no one would have even spoken about anyone. And I think when you become a world champion, it's not about your own performance. I think it's about what the entire team has done. So I feel that 97 was always better than a 0 because there are you start with 1 and you start with a 0, and then obviously look at someone like Sehwag or Sachin, obviously they would have wanted to have 97, and I was a fortunate one that I got 97.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
हेलो या ईश्वर हेलो मेरा क्वेश्चन सर महेंद्र और गौतम दोनों से ही है आपसे सर मैं जानना चाहूँगा कि महेंद्र सर आपके समय से और गौतम गंभीर जो आज क्रिकेट खेल रहे हैं इसमें जो हमारे क्रिकेटर्स हैं जो अभी इंडियन टीम में पहुँच भी जाते हैं तो कितना प्रेशर रहता है सर टीम में रहने के बावजूद भी इतना कंसिस्टेंट उनको रहना पड़ता है कुछ गेमें अगर 2-3 बेकार भी चली जाएं तो कितना प्रेशर उन पर रहता है कि वो इंडिविजुअल खेलें कि वो देश के लिए खेलें आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे सर पहले तो दोनों इसके बारे में
देखिए जी इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ ये है कि जब आप खेलते हैं ग्राउंड पे जाते हैं तो आप किसी चीज़ के बारे में नहीं सोचते वहाँ पे आप वहाँ पे एक पर्पस के लिए जा रहे हैं और आप परफॉर्म करने के लिए जा रहे हैं और आप जीतने के लिए जा रहे हैं तो जो पिछला वक्त गुजरा है आप उसके बारे में नहीं सोचते आने वाले वक्त के बारे में नहीं सोचते आप वहाँ पे मौजूद हैं और आप उस वक्त वहाँ परफॉर्म करना चाहते हैं ये माइंडसेट लेके मैं खेला करता था बिकॉज बट हर खिलाड़ी खेलने का सोचने का तरीका अलग रहता है बट मेरे ख्याल से एंड ऑफ द डे वो एक ही बात आ जाती है कि आपको परफॉर्म करना है और आपकी टीम जीतनी चाहिए और ये देश का जो सवाल आता है मेरे ख्याल से बाद में आता है परफॉर्मेंस के बाद आई डोंट थिंक आप उस लोग सोचते हैं इसके बारे में आप खाली बॉल के बारे में सोच रहे हैं अगर आप बैट्समैन हैं तो आप कैसे उसको फेस कर रहे हैं अगर बॉलर हैं तो आप कैसे बेस्ट परफॉर्म वहाँ पे कर सकते हैं
गौतम आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे कि अगर 1-2 गेम खराब हो जाती है किसी क्रिकेटर की तो वो खेलना चाहता है 10-20 साल और इतना उसके परफॉर्मेंस है कि 2-3 गेमें उसकी खराब भी हो जाए तो लेकिन उसकी जो कैरियर है वो 10-20 साल इंडिया के लिए खेल सकता है तो आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे सर
देखिए ऐसी सिचुएशन में आप सिर्फ वही चीज़ कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं जो आपके हाथ में होती है अब वो चीज़ कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते जो आपके हाथ में नहीं है ड्रॉप होना अगले 10 साल देश के लिए खेलना आपके हाथ में नहीं है आपके हाथ में सिर्फ जो आप अगली डिलीवरी या अगला जो मैच खेल रहे हो उसमें किस तरीके से कॉन्सेंट्रेट कर सकते हो अगर आप पहले दिन से ये सोच रहे हो कि मैंने 10 साल इंडिया के लिए खेलना है तो वो पॉसिबल वो एक जर्नी है वो ये नहीं है कि आज आपने सोचा और आप 10 साल खेल ली आपके हाथ में सिर्फ वही चीज़ है कि आप अगर बैट्समैन हो कि आप अगली बॉल को किस तरीके से डील कर सकते हो अगर आप बॉलर हो तो आप किस तरीके से अगली बॉल अपनी बेस्ट एबिलिटी के थ्रू डाल सकते हो अगर आपने पहले रन बनाए या नहीं रन बनाए उससे कोई मैटर ही नहीं करता बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली प्रेजेंट में रहना बहुत ज़रूरी है अगर आपने रन बनाए भी हैं तब भी आप अपनी इनिंग 0 से ही स्टार्ट करते हैं ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर आपने 300 पहले बनाए तो आप 100 रन से स्टार्ट करते हैं तो अगर आपने नहीं रन बनाए तब भी आप 0 से करते हैं अगर आपने रन बनाए तब भी आप 0 से करते हैं तो उसमें तो कोई डिफरेंस होता ही नहीं है तो अल्टीमेटली सिर्फ आप बॉल देखिए और वही चीज़ें कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश करिए जो आपके हाथ में सिलेक्शन आपके हाथ में नहीं है 10 साल खेलना आपके हाथ में नहीं है सिर्फ जिस मैच में आपको अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है उसमें अच्छा करना आपके हाथ में
गौतम मेरा एक सवाल और भी है दिल्ली में काफ़ी हद तक ये रूमर है कि आप शायद 2019 में पॉलिटिक्स ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं क्या ये वाकई में सही है या नहीं क्या मोदी सरकार में हम देख पाएंगे अगले साल
देखिए जहाँ से आपने सुना है ये बात वहीं से मैंने सुनी है बिकॉज मैंने और कहीं से नहीं सुनी और ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है बिकॉज जितने रूमर्स आपने सुने उतने रूमर्स मैं भी सुन रहा हूँ अभी तो दो दिन हुए हैं लिटरली मेरे को रिटायर हुए अभी मैंने घर पे टाइम भी नहीं ज़्यादा स्पेंड किया तो होपफुली मैं घर में बैठ के सोचूंगा कि मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ आगे जाके
Right, 2 questions and a googly there. So let's try and keep to 1 question per person.
Can I ask here on your left? Yes. Karthik, for you. Yeah, Rohit from Business World. So just want to understand that are brands realizing the potential of sports and is that the main reason why we chosen to get associated for 5 years? I mean, could you just explain this?
No, I think a lot of brands are realizing the value of being associated with sport. To me, the pertinent answer would be that what is the level of association that a brand needs to get into? By merely being attached to a team or a property is one way, but integrating it deeper and making it a part of your DNA is yet another way. As far as we are concerned, I think we have no doubt in our minds that over the last 18 years, our association with cricket has borne very rich dividends to us as a brand. And therefore our desire to make not only the brand a part of the game's DNA, but vice versa as well.
My question is to Mohinder Amarnath, sir. Just wanted to know your thoughts on India's victory in the first test in Adelaide, and how big is this advantage to start with a victory in Australia?
Well, I think it's a brilliant start to the series. And there's nothing like winning, and when you win because your morale is high, your spirits are high, and you feel that you're one up and you're bound to do well. The Indian team looks better to me compared to inexperienced Australian batting lineup. But I think if you see the end result and margin of 31, it doesn't look very huge, to be very honest. But winning is winning. And I think depends on the nature of the wicket, what kind of wicket the test match is going to be played in the future. Australian bowling to me look pretty decent, and Indian batting is more experienced. And but I think India will always have an advantage in this series. And when you have a guy like Virat Kohli over there as a batsman, as a captain, and Pujara, I think he was a classic example that how to build an inning. And but still, I think some other players, batsmen, still need to work on their batting, stroke play, and a bit of technique. But I think the more they will play, the more comfortable they'll get used to the wicket. But I think at the end of the day, end result will be, it's going to be an exciting series. But I think winner will definitely be India.
Just to add on, do you think Australia will be worried about India's base attack when they think of the surface, in the next test, whatever surface they have to give?
Will they be wary of the surface? Will they keep the surface in mind?
No, will they be wary of India's pace attack, the way they have been very impressive, or when they think about the surface, what surface they will give in Perth in other matches?
No, I think surface, you can't change surface overnight, and because you make a lot of preparation for a test match. But what I've heard that the Perth wicket is a new wicket, likely to assist pace more than the first test match. And definitely the Indian bowling look very good, and the pace bowlers are doing a wonderful job. I think the difference between the two teams as far as bowling is concerned, I think the Indians are very consistent with their line of pace bowlers, an advantage of Ashwin to be there as well. But I think the nature of the wicket will play a very important part. I think Indians have always done well on a slower track, but we have to see when there's more pace in the wicket, how the batsmen are going to play.
Hi everyone, Priya Chauhan from 10 News. Gautam, after winning 2011 World Cup and 2013 Champions Trophy, India have been going through the knockout stages in ICC tournaments, but still not crossing the final hurdles, be it 2014 and 16 T20 World Cup, 2015 50-over World Cup, and 2017 Champions Trophy. So are we the new chokers in cricket world?
I don't think so. I think it's important to be consistent. You won in 2011, you won Champions Trophy in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, in England. I think it's about being consistent. You can't win trophies so regularly as well. I think there are other sides as well and who are playing very good cricket, whether it's England, whether it's Australian one-day format, so other countries. I think India is probably the most consistent side in ICC tournaments. We played the last Champions Trophy final as well, where we got beaten by Pakistan. So I think when you go into this tournaments, your first aim or your first ambition is to get into the knockout stage, and anything can happen once you qualify for the knockouts, because it's just on that given day as well. So you don't say that India has become chokers. I think it's about being consistent, and hopefully they can cross the line. I think there's nothing which stops them from crossing the line, and we should be happy that they've played some very good cricket in all the ICC tournaments till now.
One ball per over is allowed. So one final question is what we'll allow. So,
Dave, this question is for you. We've again back in this 2019 World Cup on a round robin basis tournament. ICC is one of the few institutions which has constantly, changed the format of the World Cup every now and then, the number of teams in there. Is it got to do with the kind of pressure from the broadcasters or from the marketers that it has to be in a particular format, it has to last a particular number of days, the interest has to have, or was 2007 the real turning point for the ICC?
I think what we're striving to achieve is the global events to be the showpiece of each format. And if we're going to do that successfully, we need to make sure that the tournaments themselves produce competitive cricket. And I think that's probably the main reason why we reverted to 10 teams. Simply that inevitably, having fewer teams, the top teams playing each other, the chances of more competitive matches, closely fought matches, is going to be higher. Also, I think the reason for going back to 10 teams must be seen in the light of the T20 World Cup increasing in the number of teams. So we consciously wanted to use the T20 format to globalize the game, and there's nothing worse than watching uncompetitive cricket. And we were really conscious of making sure that we didn't have teams that were out of their depth playing against the top teams in 50 overs, which it's much more difficult to be competitive in 50 over cricket than it is into a shorter format. So those were probably the factors that we bore in mind when reverting to the 10 teams. Added to that was a sort of a memory of that 1992 World Cup where there were 9 teams, I think, at that point in time. Everyone played everyone. There was no escape. There was no lucky. If you made the semi-finals and you were in that top 4, you had to be consistent throughout the tournament. So you ended up with the true world champion. And we're hoping that the same will be for next year.
Dave, I tried very hard to keep the 92 semi-final out, but you brought it up.
Just last bit, Dave, just to add to
Can we? Okay, we'll.
You know, when it comes to ICC events, especially limited overs format now, 50 overs, 20 overs, we've been seeing flat tracks. So I know that entertainment, big totals, everyone likes to see that. But in 2019 World Cup, England, June, still providing those kinds of tracks for the World Cup.
I think certainly the sense is that you don't want to take the bowler completely out of the game, but probably at 50 over format we still, if we're going to favour anybody, maybe a 60-40 in favour of batsmen, because so we're talking around about 230 to 280 as competitive scores. If we can try and achieve that in most of the wickets, there'll always be natural variation, and it's not an exact science preparing pitches, but I think that's what we're trying to aim for. So yes, good batting wickets, but giving the bowler some chance.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad we had a nice division of throwing questions to both our wonderful stars on stage, to the brand, and to Dave Richardson. Now I think we'd like to remove the stools to get the 5 gentlemen.